Hey everybody, it's Laura Becker from Laura Becker Art. Today I have a wicker child's rocking chair that needed complete redo and reweave. It started at Trena's at John's Furniture Repair, where she completed all of the framework, and there were some broken pieces that needed to be replaced. She did all of that and then handed it off to me, where I completely reweaved the whole chair. Please enjoy the process. I hope you like it as much as I did, and hope you learned something too. Thank you. All right, we're all set with this lovely frame. It's all stripped down, cleaned. Trena did all of her magic and all of the joints that needed some replacement. There may be a little bit of epoxy on this, but we're gonna wrap it all up nicely and nobody's ever gonna know, just us. Yes. First I need to add a little bit of a tack strip. This came off, they just used a piece of, what is that?
Rattan.
Yeah, piece of rattan, a very tiny piece. This is what they used. Once this is all wrapped together, that's what they drilled into to anchor. I need to rebuild that with something because clearly this is not going to do it. It's a holy mess. So I have one tack strip that I need to add here. Then I have one on either end on the seat. And first thing will be that. And then I'm going to wrap all of the joints, everything that's going to be underneath the final weave. That's the next step, and so I'll show you where I am next. Just wanted to show a little bit of a progress shot here because I wasn't sure what was underneath the actual weave. I wanted to make sure that these were nice and strong and can handle the wear. There still will be a weave over top of this, but I wanted to make sure that this was really stable because it wasn't before. So I have no idea what it looked like because it was missing. I sort of went a little rogue and added a little weave, a nice strong weave on the corners there. That's not coming apart. I think it'll last another couple hundred years. Next, I'm going to bind this little nailing strip all the way around. All of this will be covered, so you're really only going to see the very corners. The whole idea is to really wrap all this rattan so you're not seeing much of the rattan at any of the joinery. And that's where we're at so far. Okay, here we are with the finished wrap. We've got a little extra reinforcement on the corners here. That will be hidden underneath the weave. Everything here is tied in. Nice and structural here. All the staples are on the inside. This area this plane will be covered with the weave, but the back side won't. So everything on the back had to be done as a final. This is all going to show. I want to make sure that was nice and neat. Covered all the replacement bits. And put this nice part back so nobody bottoms out. That'll give a little extra structure to the weave itself. The weave's pretty strong, but this is just a little extra in case somebody decides to stand on here instead of actually sit. Everything's all good. There's a couple of pieces of reed I'm going to add back that you'll see how it works when I add it back, as far as everything goes through it and under and over it. So that's just an extra reinforcement on the sides. I'm going to add that and we'll start weaving. I was able to save the original, which is great, very carefully. This is the back here, and I can count how many double pieces there are here, and then these pieces are folded. And then once it clears this post, that's when it starts to weave around. So I'm gonna lay this here in between the two. So you can see this fits right within there. And I'm gonna mark where the centers are of these pieces. And then I can tack them this way. They'll come all the way forward and all the way down. I'll make sure I leave some extra here. There is a detail on the front. I'm gonna just make sure I have a lot of material left over so I can play with it and get a nice shape from that. Next, I'll tack everything on the back. Everything's stapled in, And now I'm ready to start with the smaller reed to go in the horizontal. I'll leave the camera on so you can watch me a little bit. Alright, little chair has all of the uprights done. I've just tacked these in temporarily. I've got them tacked in along the seat, and then I have them tacked in along the arm. In the original chair, there is a thicker weave, twisted reed of this thicker material that covers this, but entirely the whole thing was like a fabric, so it's not actually anchored to this. I temporarily anchored this so I can start the weave above and below it to hold everything together, and then I'll remove the staples and put that, I'll probably do the top up, remove the staples, do that twist, and then do the bottom, and there is a detail on the bottom. So I just made sure I had lots of material here to play with. And in the front, I have a few more rows I need to go with the small material, and again, that had that braided detail in the front. That's right at the edge where this bend is. And then this gets totally woven into the sides and the back as one unilateral piece here. Trying to figure out order of operations is a bit tricky. Realistically, I'll start at the very top of the back and work my way down, and as things get tied in, I will tie them in and then keep going where I need to keep going. But it makes more sense to work from the top down. There is a detail in the back that I will be replicating. And that's the next step. I've finished the little basket weave here. One of the details. Second detail will line up along the bottom of the seat to cover this detail. And did the little detail on here and the very fine diamond that's in here. And it's time to repeat that twist, and then things will start to fill out. I'll have to do the weave this way down to about this point, and then I will start to tie in the sides and the back. I'll show a little bit of this braid. This is a braid. It doesn't look like a braid. It looks like there's a little twist there, but if you're a basket weaver, you know that that's a braid. I learned some things. So I'm going to finish that braid there, finish this detail off and then start to work downward, and I'll let you watch. Making some progress here. The sides have started tying in. This is all one piece now, back and forth. I'm going to continue down to the seat base. Then this gets filled in. Instead of going all the way around, it just goes back and forth in here and fills that in. So I'll fill the bottom in and then fill those two pieces in. And then I'll add this lock-in braid at the bottom of that, and then work downward. It's coming along. Here we are. We are ready to start with the side pieces here. These were all woven in, and these were added in on the uprights because obviously these ones were original and these ones are original because they're going up and down, but the ones going to the side are an addition. They're not part of the original weave. I've added them in and woven them into the back. These will lock in, it'll hold in nice and firm. And that only counts for one. So now I have to go back in and add a second one. This is just being held in very temporarily with the weave here. Once I do this braid to lock everything in, it'll lock all these pieces in. These are loose, these are integral, these are loose, these are all extras. Once I get the extras in, I'm trying to get the spacing because we have quite a bit of difference between the sides and the uprights. There's about 3/4 inch difference in between centers here, and we're closer to an inch on the sides. So I'm trying to, it's organic. It's not going to be perfect, but I'm trying to visually add where I need to add to make it not look strange. An extra one needs to be added at the end here, and that will all get locked in, and then the locked in piece goes around back, and then this weaves over top with the smaller reed there. So that's the order of operations here. I'm just gonna finish up adding these few, and I can start with the big braid. So I'm gonna soak everything really well and make sure this is all pliable. I'm not gonna do anything on the bottom part. I'm really focusing on the top part and locking this in so I can start doing this weave. There's 2 braids here. The first is just to lock everything in, and the second one is more of a decorative thing to go over this round. We want to kind of square this off and then put the second braid sort of on this plane. It flattens everything so it'll go out this way, and then I can weave everything in all the way around, and that's that. All right, we've got the placement now for these side ones. I'm now going to start with the braid. Braid 1 is done. Boy, that was a fight. Whew. Good thing I didn't record that. You would have heard a lot of swearing. I had to undo and redo a few areas. It's very tricky to do corners and wrap your head around what you're doing and where the strands are. So it was a bit tough, but round 1 is finished. And I'm gonna do one more, and then I can start doing this weave that goes all the way around. This entirely was missing on the original. We had a little bit of this, but I didn't quite know how to finish this. My plan is to continue this weaving up and over, which will go to here. These will get trimmed off and hidden, but you'll see this nice wrap here, the nice wrap here, and then I need to refine this a little bit with some, I think I'm gonna glue in, just put a little glue to make sure it doesn't come apart. It shouldn't, these are all tucked underneath, but I don't know, I'm an engineer's daughter, I can't help myself. Overkill. And from there, These are going to get one full braid after I've filled in everything. It needs to be level with this back frame here. About here, I'll add the braid, and then these pieces, one of these gets trimmed back and the other gets woven into a braid like situation. Because it's next to the braid, it looks like a second braid, but on further inspection of the original, these pieces tie in and actually get drilled into this frame to anchor everything in, and then you just keep wrapping and wrapping and wrapping and going around, and they all pop through the back, and then I have to cover that on the back. The plan here is to drill holes in between these wherever there isn't something on the back. Obviously, I've got a few obstacles here. And then we do similar to the basket weave, but instead of going behind, we're just going in. We're just choosing the furthest left one and going over two whole ones and then going through. So I'm going to end up with a bunch of these at the bottom, which I can then add a braid to just to finish it off. So I have to go all the way around and drill the holes, make sure these are wet so they bend nicely. And like I said, 2 over and then down, 2 over and then down, and then just poke them through the back. And then these will get trimmed right under the braid here. You won't even see it. All little details are done on the front side here. Everything's tucked in, drilled in, poked in through the bottom, looking nice and clean. These I'm going to wrap around and include in the braid underneath. I'm going to trim these off here. I'll show you the underside. Here's where we have all of the pieces that are poking out the back. I'm going to do a braid just to tie everything in and then trim these back again just so it looks clean. And that's where these pieces will get tucked into this braid underneath. So as I said, I have one spot that came apart. I'm gonna have to glue that after. Otherwise, the wrapping stayed together pretty good. Again, gotta try and tuck these in so it doesn't look terrible, especially on the back side, which will be quite obvious. Under the arms, it's a little less noticeable. I started soaking all of this, getting ready to do my final braid along the bottom while I'm soaking everything. Everything's all trimmed up. See the back here. Everything's woven in the back, just tucked in. All the bits are trimmed off. And we've got underneath the arms, there's a little bit of bulkiness with the leftovers, but it is what it is. There's some on the original as well. Looks pretty good. So now I get to start the bottom portion. I did the braid all the way around, and now I'm just finishing the edges here. So I'm just taking the one that's on the inside and I'm wrapping it and tucking it inside the braid on the inside. And then I'm going to trim this piece off so you'll just see a little scalloped edge here. All of this detail is missing on the original chair, so I'm taking some artistic license here on finishing it off, but I think it looks really cute and delicate. We took the rockers off first, and so we'll let it dry out. After I'm done this detail, I am gonna pin it on the inside a little bit. The original did have tacks in there to kind of hold everything a little more square. And then Trenna will put the rockers back on, and then I have to wrap. I didn't wrap here because it didn't make sense until I know where the rockers end up. And then I'll do the bamboo wrap underneath here to cover this joint and all the feet. This is really wet, that's why it's so dark. So I've obviously need to let this dry really well before we do that portion. Here she is, all finished, trimmed up. Not perfect because this one little thing needs to be glued. Put a little scalloped edge on the bottom. All the back is tucked in. She's ready to go to Trenna's for Trenna's magic. Well, we've reached the end of the complete rebuild and reweave of this tiny rocking chair. It was a great pleasure to do this job. I hope that the customer's thrilled, and I hope you learned something. I certainly did. If you enjoyed my video, please consider buying me coffee. There is a link in the description below, and it's an app where you can help fund my future videos. Thank you very much and have a great day. Bye.